not Ashley turning into Draymond Green choke bitch mode every time she see Ashley. Child, if I'm exhausted, I know y'all tired. Let's get into catching up episode 5 and 6 of Basketball Wives Orlando. Hey, Question Crew, what's going on? I know, child, we playing catch up because it's been a minute since we talked about the Basketball Wives in Orlando. But we back, and we will be dropping episodes all day today, up until the latest episode, just to refresh and we recalibrating now. So stick with me. Anyway, let's get into it. We're gonna do episode 5 and 6 in this review, y'all. So let's just get right into episode 5. We come back off of the whole peace fight that we had at Mulan's peace brunch that never really was anything, honey. Immediately, we had the shouting, we had the fighting in the parking lot. It's very much giving baddies energy, but we are back and the ladies are trying to turn over what appears to be possibly a new leaf, but not really. And we start off with the whole montage where everybody's doing, honey. Danielle is playing with her kids in the pool. Megan's talking with her social media team about her stats and her following. And she's talking about getting possible interns. Are they paid or not? Let's have a conversation about that. It's be weird when people are like, oh, well, do we have any interns coming in? Intern means unpaid for many, many people still. And so I always be side-eyeing people who want the kids working for free. But her boo shows up with flowers and we move on. And then we're talking with Lindsay and she is on FaceTime with Morgan. Y'all, I keep saying this every single time. Lindsay just gives me Farrah from Destiny Child energy. Like, I be wondering what this girl be doing here. I know she's supposed to be like the topic of this episode, but honestly, her presence be so limited to giving impact on this show. I don't see her being somebody that's going to come back next season. If there is a next season of Orlando, which I hope there is, but I don't see it. This prenatal storyline is running out of gas, honey. So she's FaceTiming Morgan and talking about a prenatal exam that she has coming up. And she's asking Morgan, could she come be there with her? Because obviously her child's father is not there because he's still currently playing basketball overseas. And Morgan says that she will. Morgan immediately gets off of that call and she is sitting on a carpet in her room meditating. But why she got an angry look on her face? Like, even in meditation, Morgan be angry. Girl, how you angry getting your aura together? Anyway, we move on to Megan and Danielle. Megan is walking into a restaurant. Danielle's already sitting down in, and she looks at the menu because they're about to play catch up. And she looks at the menu and she decides that she wants a mimosa. I don't know. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about mimosas. I feel like I'm not really a fan of champagne in general as a drink. So I'm not really into that. So when you mix it with orange juice, it don't really do nothing for me. But I know it's all the rage to appear that way, especially at brunch. Some people do like them. I don't know. Champagne just ain't my thing. But y'all let me know, how do y'all feel about mimosas? They basically go through the menu and decide to order some mimosas. And it's not even 5 minutes into the conversation, y'all. And Danielle can't wait to bring up Mackenzie. It's the obsession for me. And girl, they ain't even got drinks yet. And she's already bringing up like the nickname she calls Mackenzie. I forgot what it was because it was dumb. But she basically says like, I think Megan started talking to her about her podcast and she immediately goes into, what Mackenzie said. And it's like, girl, what? They don't even have, did these two things associate? Danielle is obsessed. Danielle ends up talking to, so even in the green screen, Danielle is talking to Megan about what's going on. But even in the green screen, Megan basically says like, girl, y'all need to figure out this love triangle because this is just weird at this point. And honestly, it's giving obsessed, it's giving depressed, it's giving Rashad can't really be your best. And Megan says that it's kind of ridiculous at this point and somebody has to give up. And she really means Danielle. But Danielle can't wait to talk to her about Mackenzie. And she ends up saying how, it's really about the fact that Mackenzie is messy. And when she knew that Danielle was coming here, that's when her and Rashad went more public with their relationship. And she just knows that she's not about to bully her out in some man's life that she done been in for 8 years, who they share kids with together. And you could just tell at that moment that Danielle is just really using her kids as the excuse to keep staying in this fold of a weirdness with Rashad. And I hate when people do that with their children. It's also just awkward because she basically says that, it's really difficult for her because honestly, she's just really still in love with Rashad. And she's upset and probably would be upset no matter who the woman was that was in his life afterwards. Even though they were not together when him and Mackenzie got together, it just is weird. She's like, oh, I got receipts on her. I know she's not a good person. All this research you doing as to why you think Mackenzie's not a good person is not going to change the fact that Rashad cheated on you. And it's not going to change the fact that Rashad's still not with you. And I feel like Megan's trying to get her to that point of not being deluded, but she's still in the land of delusion, honey, trying to pull out her phone. And basically, it led to, so Megan asked her, hey, like, are you still getting down with Rashad? At this point, you're obsessed with him. Are you still getting down with him? She's like, yeah, we still, mess with each other, but I'm trying to get to a point where I'm still loving him, but I'm not obsessed. I'm not obsessed with him. And I moved on from my situation. We could just co-parent. Girl, in order for him to co-parent, you have to jump off the ride. You have to jump off the ride. So, Chad, we back with Farrah from Destiny's Child. I mean, AKA Lindsay. And Lindsay is, sitting on the couch, manless and pregnant, honey. And she is FaceTiming with her husband. I mean, she's not manless in the sense of her man is there, but he's just not there. You know what I mean? And so, it is kind of sad to see. I hate this like narrative for her on screen and just in real life. It's got to be incredibly sad to be separated from your significant other when you're going through one of the biggest moments in your life. So, my heart absolutely goes out to her as a kind of a solo pregnant married woman right now. But my heart goes out to her. I'm not so sure that Devon's does. She's FaceTiming with her man Devon, who is playing overseas in basketball, and she's talking to him how the ultrasound went and how, she's been nervous in all these different prenatal moments and all these appointments. And it sucks that he's not there to experience that with her. And when I tell you that man was so disassociated and not interested, she even feels the need to explain to us on camera how, she kind of hates that he gets read the wrong way in terms of his energy, because people will confuse who he is and how he is simply because of how he kind of disassociates. And she starts talking to him about, what's been going on in the stress. And again, my heart really just goes out to like people who have traveling spouses or even military wives who sometimes have to be pregnant, for significant periods, sometimes for their whole pregnancy without their significant other. So really having a good, backup person like she has with Morgan, or just having a good support system is really, really helpful. Devin seems really disassociated, and she starts asking about him signing with a team late in the season. Essentially, can he get picked up by somebody so that he can have a job, number one, and then two, be back from overseas? Because he could basically play for like an NBA team for like very little money, and compared to what they play larger superstars at the end of the season if he talks with his agent. And he'll just kind of be like a bench warmer, probably play a couple of games, be like a 6-man type situation, but he'll be closer to home, and it will also allow him to get a check in the process so they having to be so far away. And he could also kind of do the same thing overseas, but he doesn't seem to be on top of it. He kind of keeps being nonchalant about the fact that he hasn't really checked into that. He hasn't really asked any questions. It feels like she's giving him more information than he's asking questions for, which gives that he's kind of disassociated from the process. And that's really disturbing to see coming from her husband. They hang up on FaceTime, and you could just tell that was an uncomfortable conversation for her that she's trying to make not seem awkward. Then we move on. We find Milan driving on the interstate, honey, and she is driving in the Maybach like it's a Rick Ross video and going on the way to the airport to gather her siblings, honey. And we know that, Milan had told us earlier and showed us earlier she has some little badass sisters that's running around town doing the most, and she wants them to stay focused. So she's letting them stay with her for a little bit just to get them recalibrated back into normality, because honey, they were seen like helping steal a car or something like that. So Milan has two sisters. And really, Milan has multiple siblings. Like she has 15 siblings. Her mom had 9 kids and her dad had 6. And, but Milan says, look, despite her situation and her upbringing, she's always had a job. She's always had her head on straight. And she's the perfect person to work with her sisters. Her sisters are Gwendolyn and Jaden. They're 17 and 13. And they all grew up in the same household. She didn't change the diapers. She didn't walk them to school. She didn't wipe their noses, all that kind of stuff. But she's trying to get them back on the same page, because recently her sisters have been getting in a lot of trouble, mainly because her parents got so many damn kids. And Milan feels like maybe if she housed Kendall and Kylie for a little bit, honey, she'll get them on the page again. And they're talking, catching up in the car. You can clearly see that they're just happy to see her, and they're in a good environment. They're having a good time. One of the sisters mentioned that her lips is kind of dry, and she asked Milan for some lip gloss. She said, girl, I got some Aquaphor in my purse. The sister started grabbing through the purse, honey, and why she pull out a vibrator? Milan is buying, you know what I'm saying, bedroom candy, and she forgot to take it out of her purse, and the sister found it. They kind of have a nice little laugh about it, and you can kind of see that Milan's rapport, and hope that Milan's rapport with her sisters is something that can set them on a straight path. Child, so why the unlikeliest who's from Whoville end up meeting up? So Ashley and Nikki, of all people, end up connecting in the salon that Nikki seems to be working out of temporarily while she's in Orlando, honey. And Ashley is talking to Nikki about making a wig for her for charity. So Ashley lost her mom to cancer, and she wants to honor her mother by doing this thing for charity. And she says that there's like a nonprofit above her that is like a research center, and she wants to start doing more work in that capacity since she lost her mother, and she wants to be there for cancer victims. And we find out that Nikki's sister unfortunately also passed away. We also find out that Ashley just came back from the Special Olympics in Berlin. She took her kids and Tony, because the Special Olympics invited Tony, obviously because he is autistic, but they have two autistic sons. And she's just talking about how it was really heartwarming for her kids to be able to participate and be a part of that environment and moment and see their dad in that moment. They just have a really heartwarming story as far as their family is concerned. I really like to see it. Anyway, Ashley goes on to say that she lost her mom in 2019 due to cancer. And one of the hardest things with her mom was losing her hair. That happens to many cancer victims. And my heart goes out to anybody who's a cancer survivor or anybody who's lost anyone to cancer, because it's such a difficult phase and stage in terms of how you're coping with that as a person, especially if you're a caregiver for someone, if you are the spouse of someone or the child of someone, and just watching them go through that process, either to its end where the person passes away, or even if the person does survive it, just the back and forth of constant hospital visits and clinic visits. It's a lot. And so Nikki understands this completely because she lost her sister April, I think of this year or last year, to cancer as well. And she says it's one of the reasons that she has the eating disorder and like tends to overeat, because she's coping with the loss of her sister in a really dark way. Ashley tells her, you got to give yourself some grace. Going through a cancer situation is super difficult. Nobody understands. And people cope the way that they cope. She said that's why she wants to get involved in doing this wig for charity. And, she would love to do something further combined with Nikki regarding cancer patients, because it's obviously something they both connect with and have gone through, and really feels like Nikki could be helpful in this capacity, and it could be healing for both of them. This was a really nice moment to see, and one of the reasons why I think it's so important that the women get to know each other on individual basis, because when you separate yourself from a person's situation and get to know somebody else, you might find out that you like them, and not just in this like bitter brigade situation. But let's hope this stays up. Anyway, we move on to Megan, and she's contemplating a conversation she had with her man Dre a couple episodes ago, where Dre was telling her that he wanted to, that they were having the conversation about Megan wanting to start a family, and Dre was telling her that in order for them to start a family, she has to heal her relationships with her own family. He said he's very family oriented, and he's just not interested in being with somebody who's not into that, because family means a lot to him. Megan has a very strained, tough family situation. We met her brother a couple episodes ago, and she has a lot of bitterness towards her mom. That's some of it is justified, and some of it we don't really know, but it's giving Tokyo Tony and Black China. And Megan is really upset because she basically was raised by her grandparents. Her mom just had her very young, wasn't really around, and she's resentful, especially because her mother then went on to raise her brother. And she doesn't feel the fact that, he had the impact of their mom and she didn't. And she felt like her mother didn't really try with her. She kind of found out through family situations that her grandparents actually really asked to raise her. Even once the mom had her, they wanted her to have this stable environment that the mother just wasn't providing at the time, because she was very young. But Megan really regrets the fact that her mom just did not come back for her. And that's a sore spot for her. And it's a difficulty within their relationship. But she plans on meeting up with her mother to sort of discuss this dynamic and see if they can work through it, because she wants to have a healthy relationship with her own child, and she wants Dre to know that she is trying. Child, then we finally meet up with Mackenzie and Danielle, and we get into it. So this has been the showdown that we have been wanting to see, because Danielle has been on it since she got on this show. Mackenzie, Rashad. So Mackenzie wants to get some things cleared in the air in relationship to her being a side chick and all this dynamic drama that Danielle has brought with her since she's been in this entire circle. She's tired of the exhaustion of the conversation around Rashad. She's tired of being called different names and being confronted every 5 minutes. And she wants to just get this over with. So she and Danielle meet down. Danielle sits down and they start having conversation. Danielle has to actually acknowledge in the very beginning of the situation that ultimately Mackenzie wasn't the reason that her and Rashad demise. She basically says that her and Rashad were together for 10 years. And, Mackenzie is somebody who came on later at the end of the situation. She basically says that after the 10 years, Rashad was on some, hey, I don't want to be monogamous. And so he's just like, I want an open relationship. And she wasn't with that situation. And that was very troubling for her. And one of the reasons that she left. She said that she just took the ring off a couple of months ago. And it was mainly because Rashad was cheating with multiple women. So it wasn't like Mackenzie was the only person in his circle, which again, girl, we are wondering, why is this the issue that you are having? Again, if he was cheating prior to Mackenzie and y'all, she's not even the reason y'all broke up, why are you constantly pulling this woman into the situation? So she basically says that she's not going to put that on Mackenzie, that she was responsible for their demise. But I guess she's like, this is the first time she's ever sat down with any of the women that have been involved with Rashad. I feel like Mackenzie is getting the blow of how Danielle wants to speak to any of the women that have been involved with him. And she's putting all of that energy on her. And she basically says that, I know Rashad is lied and you went through something similar with Neek, so I don't understand. And Mackenzie says, look, Rashad ain't lied to me so far. Like, as far as I know, when we got together, he was single. That's what he told me. And based on what Danielle is saying in her timeline, that eats up with what Rashad told Mackenzie, that they were broken up at the time, which Danielle kind of acknowledged in the previous episode, so I don't understand. But this is exactly what Rashad's been telling her. So he hasn't lied to her. He was single. She knew he had kids because she knew him from before, but she wasn't talking to him prior to that. She says that she only knew about Danielle once she found out Danielle was friends with Morgan. She had never met her before. And she basically says that she's not a side chick. Like, I met him after y'all broke up. This is not my issue. Your issue was with him, but I wasn't cheating with him, and I'm tired of that narrative going around. And then Danielle says, but he's a liar and he's lied to both of us. And, people know who I am. It's like, girl, she couldn't wait to tell somebody about her name in the city. So, Danielle's on her ride, like, they know me in here. They know me in here. And she basically is trying to explain that Rashad's people, specifically like his agent, people like that, because she was in his life for 10 years, which makes complete sense, know who she is. And there wasn't anybody that worked around Rashad that didn't know that that was his woman. So Morgan Mackenzie goes, well, girl, you're his woman now? And Danielle's like, well, that's not the case. Like, no, I'm not with him now. She's like, and that's the whole point. Like, why are we still arguing around this Rashad thing? Like, we're not breaking up. And at the end of the day, girl, like, what is this conversation about? So they start to get into a back and forth, and Danielle ends up saying that, at the end of the day, he's lied to both of us, and the dynamic is just still that the period doesn't connect for her. And she's like, you don't think I know what's going on with y'all or when y'all doing stuff? And it's like, girl, clearly you are tuned in. You have a GPS on Mackenzie's every move. It's wildly uncomfortable. And then Mackenzie says, well, I don't understand if y'all weren't together when we got together. And if you and him are not together now, what is with the obsession? And she basically says to Danielle, like, girl, this is like a weirdo situation. She was like, I know you track everything he's doing. Like, even when we went, she said, so Danielle brings up, like, oh, when y'all went to Tulum, before y'all went to Tulum, and she's like, girl, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you so zoned in on this man and this new woman? It does not make any sense for somebody who's supposed to be letting go. She said, well, you should be understanding my situation because you went through the exact same thing with Neek. And at the end of the day, you tried to, as hard as you could to save your relationship with Dwayne and your family. But it was like, girl, you just said that you're not with Rashad. You said you took off the ring. Are you trying to stay with him or not? Because it sounded like you said that he wanted to be in a non-monogamous relationship. So are you trying to stay with the man? You're not trying to stay with the man. You're confusing us. And so she basically says that, she knows what's going on with him. And even with this little trip that you just had to Minnesota, you don't think that I saw him. And she said, well, I just saw him at the airport. Like, Mackenzie's like, I just saw him at the airport. And she's like, well, you don't think I just saw him right after that when he dropped off my kids. And it's like, girl, calm down. It's not a competition. And you would still be losing in that competition because you're not home in Minnesota. So she then goes on to say that, you don't think I still stay in touch with him and what's going on. She says, well, have you been around my kids? So Mackenzie actually doesn't answer. She just kind of is like, at this point, looking at her weird. And it's clear that she has been around the kids, which is not going to be, it's going to be unavoidable if Rashad is around his kids and they're actively dating. She's like, oh, you haven't been around my kids. So Mackenzie does not answer. She's like, okay, this is not going anywhere. And Danielle's like, I know one thing, you better not be around my kids. And oh, I'm going to really have something to say. And it's like, Mackenzie gets up. She says, this is going nowhere. You basically invited me here. She's like, well, you need to do whatever. She's like, girl, you invited me. I'm not here for any reason. She gets up and leaves. As she's walking out, they start calling each other names, and it ends. Child, we are exhausted. We are tired. We are done. We are over Rashad, and we wasn't even in a relationship with him. Then we move on to Milan. Honey, why they keep showing these townhouses like they not in the same place? This Google Maps pop-up they keep doing, like trying to pretend like they not all living in the same rental complex right now, is absolutely hilarious to me. Anyway, Milan is meeting up for her sisters. They're in the house. They got the same kitchen for her, Morgan, and Neek. It's like, girl, they living in the same place, and Danielle. So Milan says that, she likes that, her sisters, they're there with her. She really wants to talk to them a lot about stability and about how they're coping with the changes that their mom is going through since she lost their brother. Their mom's kind of always been unstable most of Milan's life, but she knows that it was a little bit easier when their brother was alive. But because of their brother being killed, it really took her mom into a tailspin on her mental health. And she just wants to check in with her sisters. She also wants to talk to them a lot about their stability and about growing out of their circumstances despite what they're living in. She says that she thinks that they're handling it really well, although clearly they're not because they're at your house right now and you're trying to counsel them. And girl, if they were handling it well, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't have gotten into an almost felony situation. She does preach to them about the dangers of, living the fast life and not paying attention to um, the mistakes that they're making and how it could be really, have a really bad situation happen, whether it be their life ending or them ending up in incarceration. And they talk about the fact that her brother was in a lot of criminal trouble. And specifically, when he was killed, it was due to him being, I think, a part of an armed robbery situation and how life can happen so fast and you be gone tomorrow. So she just talks to them about how depressed she is for them in a lot of ways and how depressed she can be sometimes when she goes back home to Cincinnati because there's so much going on in the streets. And I'm telling you, them small towns be the worst. The little Rock, Cincinnati, them small areas, they be sometimes the worst places. We always think of these larger urban cities like New York and LA as being these places that be like dangerous for centers for danger. But honestly, it really be these other spots. So Milan gets really emotional. Her sisters comfort her, and she just says she really wants the most for them. And even the little sister says that she wants more for herself. I'm wondering if Milan is thinking about possibly adopting them, honey. But it's a very sweet moment with some real awareness, and I love seeing it. Then we move on to Farrah and her man, honey. Even though I'm calling her Farrah from Destiny's Child, I do feel like she looks a little bit like Latavia. So let's find a way to mix that together. Y'all let me know in the comments. Maybe you can call her Latavia Farrah. I don't know. I'm gonna figure something out. But either way, Latavia Farrah is baby shopping with her man, honey. So it looks like Devin has come home, at least to be in the store for a little while. And they're looking at cute baby clothes and having a conversation about the baby. And he's saying how he's kind of excited to see the baby come in. And they're discussing the sex of the baby and if he wants a boy or a girl. And also not knowing where his career stands is something that's really a little disturbing for her. She talks about how she does have a support system with his mom and her mom and so many people who are ready to love on their child when their child gets here, but it is very frustrating to not know where his career will be. And she asked him, like, does he know more information? And he says he really doesn't. Sports careers can be so unstable, and my heart goes out to people who just don't know that dynamic. Although I am wondering what is his overall end game, because he doesn't actually play in the NBA. He plays overseas, and you have to have a point in your mind because your career could be so short, and so where you will no longer be like either actively doing that, either trying to get back into the G League to see if you can get into the NBA. I do kind of wonder where Devin is. He seems like he's a bit unsure about where his own career is residing, and I hate that for him because I need him to have more answers to give his wife. So now it's the big down with Megan and her mama, honey. And Megan sits down with her mother, aka Tokyo Tony. And Megan and her mother are really the same if we're watching this scene. So essentially, Megan tells all of the rehash of the story about her mom not being there and really her resentment with her mother for not really being a stable force in her life, whether or not the grandparents had to raise her and not really coming back in that exact way. And she feels like the issues around her mother and her and their personalities is because her mother has lacked accountability. And I have to be honest, I feel like, she has every right to feel how she feels regarding her mom in certain ways. But I'm wondering if Megan is sort of using this moment a bit much for a little bit of empathy and storyline that feels a little less authentic. And I'll tell you why. So Megan, I think, has absolutely the right to feel resentful towards her mom and have resentment because her mother just didn't show up in the ways that she needed to. She does acknowledge that her mother being pregnant at 17 and not really knowing what to do as a teen mom was probably the best thing to give her to her grandparents for her to have a stable life. But she does not feel like her mom really showed back up in the ways that she needed to, even if she was a young mother. Like, we know plenty of young moms who have kids very young, but they'll like be in school and get their life together while the parents help raise, or they'll be an active parent, even if the child is living with the grandparents full time, that the child doesn't really know that the mom isn't, not present. Like, it doesn't feel like, she gave her auntie vibe. It sounds like her mother just sort of took off, was in the streets, ran and did her thing, and really wasn't there but on occasion. And that is her resentment. And it completely understands how it shapes her world and how she feels about maybe even being a mother herself. And, she talks to her mother about how at some point in her child she just didn't step up. Her mother does actually do the opposite of what Tokyo Sony had done with China for years, which is she took accountability. She said, like, if I had it to do over again, I would absolutely want to raise you differently and raise my kids differently and make better choices. I just didn't. And I can't go back to what I didn't get done. She says that she, hopes that she forgives her, but she does feel like Megan throws her family under the bus to use that dynamic for you maybe explaining away some of her bad behavior or even explaining having something to just say on television. And she feels like Megan uses them for a storyline. She says that you know, their relationship is what it is because they just don't seem to have a mutual respect for each other that they need to have. And she says that, she's arrived at a certain place in her personal life that she feel like she has healed from. And she hopes that Megan is at that same place. She says that she is proud of Megan, but she also feels like Megan looks down on the rest of her family when she rose to a certain place. And she's like, give me some respect because I am still your mother, about the fact that I have tried to be there and make amends. With me, it's real difficult to know. I feel like both of them are kind of messy in this situation. And I do feel like at times Megan's mom wants to make things better. But I also am wondering, are you borrowing money from your daughter or attempting to? Because that's always a weird situation anyway. But that could be another resentment Megan has. Like, how dare you come to me, to want something when you maybe weren't there for me in my childhood. Megan's mother said that she needs to put some respect on her name, but she also understands that they have to respect each other and that she feels bad for Megan because she feels like when the lights go out, and she's talking about like the studio lights, and when the green screen goes black, Megan's life is going to be in a dark place. And that is the part to me that reads that the mom seems to be emphasizing that she's taking accountability for her actions, that Megan continues to use this to eke out sympathy, maybe from audiences about her childhood, and that she feels like Megan is playing for the cameras and it's an uncomfortable situation because you're running this dynamic to people like as if I haven't tried to like make amends. And maybe that Megan is using this moment to garner empathy in her life and it is not authentic. Megan gets emotional and she walks off saying like she doesn't even know why she kind of tries. So, child, that situation was not healed. But we also are wondering, is Megan using this just for a storyline? Because then that's kind of dark too. Anyway, Mackenzie is at I don't know, Chuck E. Cheese, honey, and she is at having a birthday party for her 3-year-old daughter, Chanel. She has a daughter with Dwayne named Chanel, and she is having this party separate from Dwayne because she said a lot of times her and Dwayne have separate events anyway. It's not a big deal. She's invited some of the girls, not all, to the event. Ashley, Lindsay, and Milan show up, and Milan and her two sisters come. She says, you know, she's happy to have them there. She doesn't want drama, so she didn't invite people who she thought would bring drama, and maybe some people just weren't available. Anyway, they end up getting it together. They make the room really, really cute. The 3-year-old is super excited. Her dad is there, of course. And then they sit down at the table. Now, I don't know. Mackenzie wasn't really feeling this, but Milan shows up and she starts having a conversation with Lindsay because she starts talking to her about the safety of how she felt in the moment when everything went down. Her and Lindsay start having a conversation about the whole fight at the Peacemaker brunch. And they have a conversation about how Lindsay might have felt uncomfortable because she was actually pregnant and they were throwing stuff and moving things around. And Lindsay even mentioned that it was one of the first times she actually had to think about somebody other than herself when it came to her safety. And it was kind of uncomfortable being the person that was in that moment. Even though security got there kind of quick and blocked her out, initially she didn't know where it would go and it frightened her a bit. And so Milan says she does feel bad for it. And she just was very shocked that Danielle put her hands on her and she doesn't think that they could mend and be friends. And Ashley says, child, that's what it is. Some of us are on, we're on 2 different islands and some of us are just riding back and forth on a boat between them islands. And Milan says, that's what I want to do. I just want to be on the boat. I'm not trying to be involved in the drama in the situation, honey. But Milan eventually rehashes the fact that she just doesn't think she could forgive Danielle because ultimately Danielle put her hands on her. Girl, we get it. Y'all not friends. Let's move on. Danielle meets up with Morgan and Megan and they meet up in some weird, like, I don't know, I don't know, like some type of weird tantric or tantric type of bar. It was given the energy that they were given. And, again, Morgan walking in is just so low energy, y'all. Like, it's just something about her aura. Like, I wanted to like this girl so bad from the beginning episodes, but it just something about her energy and her aura is so negative, and every time that she walks in, it's always a problem. It's just a weird place, and it really doesn't have anything to do with any of these surrounding girls. That's some shit that's just over her right now. So, of course, they get to talking about Danielle's favorite topic, which is Mackenzie, and not Mackenzie being her storyline the entire season, girl. The obsession is just it's wild at this point. You really need to seek help, mama. And, they start talking about how everything went with the sit down. And of course, Danielle puts 10 on 20 and makes it seem like she did all this extra stuff that didn't really happen and just telling half truths about what went down. And she ultimately says that, Mackenzie still chooses to not acknowledge the timelines. The truth of the matter is, Rashad don't care about the timelines, but she's just not going to acknowledge the fact that even if the timelines intermingled, mixed, integrated, connected, you still not with this man. Either way, she's saying that she's not choosing to acknowledge the timelines. And then also she made some type of inference and made some joke about the fact that she was around her kids, which she did not do. You asked her, has she been around your kids? And she chose not to answer that out of respect and probably just for not to escalate to some weird point. Because what Danielle is doing is what a lot of like bitter baby mamas do, which is that they will try to bring up their kids to have that be the reason that they're able to set off. Like Mackenzie wasn't giving her the energy she wanted her to give her back. And so they'll try to use the kids. Like, have you been around my kids? So that if you want to fight her, argue, or just say that she brought up your kids. And because Mackenzie refused to acknowledge them, that made Danielle frustrated and angry. So she basically says, like, and I'll punch her if she was to be around my kids, whatever. Girl, you can't stop that. Those are Rashad's kids as well. And if he chooses to have his kids over and there's a woman that comes over, there's nothing that you can really do about that. You're not going to go back to court and mess up your kids' entire lives and dynamic with their father because you don't like the fact that he has a girlfriend that they're going to be around. And she's like, well, you better be, I don't want to hear nothing about my kids. So she basically knows that them kids been around Mackenzie. She then tries to hype up the fact that, she did talk to Milan, and then Megan kind of jumps in and chimes in, and she basically says that Milan doesn't like to tell the truth, and Milan was upset because she felt like they dragged her in the middle of everything and that the dynamic was messed up. She does acknowledge the fact that I agree. Milan did put herself in the middle of the mix by trying to have the peacemaker brunch. However, I think Milan's whole point was that she was tired of the drama and the argument, and it's just a negative vibe when they get together. And she was trying to make the ladies just talk about the things they wanted to talk about. And then Morgan brings up the fact that she feels like her and Neek wouldn't have even been in the drama had Milan not been involved. Girl, I don't think that was what escalated the situation. So using Milan as the reason that you and Neek ended up having an incident is not accurate. But she basically says F Milan, and they get into a back and forth about how Danielle tried to apologize when Milan was not feeling the physicalness because she got punched in the face. And this is the reason why Milan didn't make up with her. Then Megan lets them know that Nikki plans on having a sleepover or a pajama party. And then Morgan's like, oh, how could we, what's the address? We're going to crash that. Basically giving the energy that they coming back to be the negative force that they've been so far in the entire situation. And that was the end of this episode. Let me know how you feel about the episode in the comments. We're playing catch up today, but we will be back on it by the end of today. So I want you to make sure y'all check out all the videos. So this is episodes 5 and 6. I want y'all to get a water break, come back, and we will continue on to episode 6 on the same video. And then I'll be dropping episode 7 and 8 tonight as well. Hey, y'all, support this channel by smashing that like button. Your likes not only make my day, but they also tell YouTube that you also enjoy this content. Also, don't forget to hit the notification button. That way you can be alerted as soon as I drop a new episode. Thanks. Okay, so it's round 2, and we are here for episode 6, y'all. Let's get right into it. So we are back with the girls, despite all of the inferences that will be drama, because, honey, this episode will be drama. And we link right back into an introduction. We are now meeting the infamous Rashad, child. Rashad. It has been about this man for the last 4 or 5 episodes, so it's about time that we finally meet this person. So we meet up with Rashad and Mackenzie, and they're in Minnesota. So Rashad has a farm in Minnesota. We kind of established that, like, I think 2 episodes ago. And Mackenzie says she goes out there every weekend to spend time with Rashad. And Rashad only has goats and chickens on his farm. So they're at a different farm in town so that she can go horseback riding. And they're like linking up, and you can see like they're like a new couple. Like it's clear like they're like a fresh situation. And Mackenzie doesn't front about that. Like she doesn't make it seem like her and Rashad have been together forever. He's the love of her life. She's like, look, we're a new situation. We're very fresh, but I like where we're growing. It was kind of like a nice little ride around. She was kind of on the horse. They chatted for a little bit about, her being able to get out there to visit, and then, just their dynamic and growing. They kind of just mostly chat about how she's doing well on the horse. Not a big deal, but we finally get to meet Rashad, honey, and them cornrows and them bobos. All I got to say is, this man y'all fighting over? I'm appalled. Anyway, they finish the horseback ride. Mackenzie makes a little slide joke and we move on. We have met Rashad. Next is Nikki, and Nikki is in the house talking to her wig that she's sort of sharing out, honey. So we basically realized that Nikki is bored. She, clearly is giving friend to the show energy, but she misses the hair community. I don't think she's linked up at a hair salon there, or she's not connected, because I know she's originally from Chicago because we met her on Black Ink, but she moved to Atlanta to pursue her career there. I think she then moved to LA, honey. I don't know. Nikki been all over the globe, but meanwhile, she's bored there. She doesn't really, I don't know what the relationship dynamic is, but essentially she's talking to the wig. She's named the wig Patricia Child, and she going stir crazy in that house because she hasn't been around, doing multiple heads or doing anybody's hair, honey, doing anything that's making her feel like the stylist that she is. And she's just missing that creative community. So we hope she can find it. Then we finally move on to Morgan and Carita, honey. Carita is back. I really like this look Carita was giving us. Normally she's serving up a little, sexy grandma vibe. I wanted to keep Carita in her flyness, but Carita gave a real tame mommy today. But Carita is meeting up with Morgan, her daughter, and the kids are playing in the house, and they start having this conversation about how everything is going now that she's settled. Morgan's happy to have her mom back in Orlando because Carita said she got to visit all the grandkids because she can't play favorites. And she's sitting down with Morgan to have a discussion about how she's handling everything. And Morgan says that, you know, the dynamic of being in Orlando is getting rough, but she's, making friends and connecting. And her mother wants to know how she worked out her previous situation. Because prior to now, Morgan discussed with her mother about her fallout with Ashley and how close they were. And she basically said that she's sort of is working out the way it's working out. But she does have Danielle and she does have Lindsay and she does hang out with them. But essentially, her and Ashley aren't working out. Her mom kind of gives the vibe that Morgan has probably been problematic, I think, a lot of her life in terms of, like, getting into it with people, because she doesn't seem surprised. And she kind of feels like, things will resolve themselves or whatever. But it's giving, I'm not shocked it's not working out. Like, as if she knows something about Morgan or knows something about their dynamic that is, the reason why it's not working. Morgan then says, like, it is what it is. They start having a conversation. I noticed this entire segment, and y'all let me know down in the comments if y'all noticed, they kept bleeping Eric's name out. So I'm wondering, and this is the first time that I saw that in the episode, and we're on episode 6, but it makes me wonder if Eric told them, like, look, you can't use my name, or threatened to sue production, honey, because they were definitely saying his name the first 4 or 5 episodes, but every time Morgan said his name in his episode, they kept bleeping it out. I thought that was very interesting. So, she started to talk to her mother about how stressful it is playing both mom and dad to her kids. She said Eric is there financially, but she feels like he's abandoned their children, and essentially it's very stressful to play both roles. She then gets into an emotional conversation with her mother about how she doesn't want the kids to experience what she experienced. And she has those feelings of abandonment that cause her to have resentment towards her mother, because her mother ended up being a single parent. And they start to have this really beautiful, emotionally awakening conversation. But ultimately, we find out that Morgan's dad had another family. Now, I don't know if Carita was messing with a married man or what the situation is, but they claim that the man had another family they ain't know nothing about. And that when the mother found out, it was devastating or whatever. And he just kind of abandoned Morgan and, like, I guess went with his other family. Um, and then they also talk about the fact that Carita basically did everything on her own. As a result, she was a single parent. He wasn't involved regardless of what the circumstances might be. I thought it was interesting that Carita also said she was a child. So I'm like, when did this dynamic take place? Like, when did she have Morgan to when, how old was the father? Like, I got questions. Like, having a whole other family and her being a child, I don't know if she meant she was just super young, like she was in her 20s, or is this some type of R. Kelly? Like, I don't know. We need to find out more information. So Carita also explains that, yes, it is very difficult to do this by yourself. And she also mentions that she's not surprised that Morgan and her ex Eric did not work out, because she basically called them, like, I don't know, thunder and lightning, honey, something about they didn't mix oil and water. And she said that that they were always off and on. So I'm a little surprised that Morgan made it seem as if they were going to last, because the mother seems to make it seem like they were always a problematic pair that just always was back and forth and up and down. And she's not surprised they're not together anymore. But Morgan gets emotional because in the past, she's blamed her mother for her father not being there. And she did not know until she became a mom and started experiencing some of the same things, that her mother was doing the best that she could and did everything she could to make sure that Morgan had male role models, and that she didn't want for anything, even though she was struggling to do it on her own. So she apologizes to her mom about how bratty she was in the past to her about it, because now she's experienced the same exact thing. And, she knows that she will get through it, but she appreciates the grace her mother handled her childhood with. So, honey, Nick and Milan meet up at Milan's spot, and they're just again in that condo. the, the same townhomes, honey. Let me just say, I'm gonna just call it the VH1 property because at this point, we pretty much know that they all living in the same place. Anyway, Neek walks over, I guess, to Milan's spot, and they end up meeting up to just chill. And it's always a good time when they're around and a good vibe. And Neek says that that's the energy that she constantly sits in. They have a little conversation, and she talks to Milan about, forgiving Nikki, going to the party that Nikki invited everybody to. And she says she's on good vibes. She can acknowledge when she's wrong. She can take accountability that she shouldn't have put her hands on Morgan, and that ultimately, that sort of escalated everything to where it got to a certain degree. And she said that she's just about having fun. She's just not really with the negativity and the negative energy. It takes too much to just be, messy all the time and negative, and that's not what she's into. And, she asked Milan about how she feels about, everything that's been going on and, how is everything. And so Milan does mention to her that her little sisters were at her house, but they have gone back to Cincinnati. However, Milan feels like her little sisters kind of maybe played her a little bit or whatever, because at the end of their trip, she's saying that when she went back home after she dropped them off at the airport, she checked and she could not find her Chanel bag, I guess, which was the one that she had in the car. And she also cannot find her watch. She said she had a Rolex, I believe, that was like $100,000 Rolex watch that is missing. And essentially, she definitely believes that they took it. And she said that she just doesn't. The unfortunate lesson that she got from that, she said, was that you can't always trust everybody with your your heart or whatever. So sometimes you got to basically close yourself off to them. And I hate that she took that away from the lesson with her sisters, because it's possible that they were the ones that took her items. I think they probably did. They were already kind of in trouble beforehand. Maybe they wanted it because they just wanted something nice. They live a very different life than her. And she said that she thinks that that's the problem, that they believe that her life is easy and that she hasn't had to work for the things that she's had. And they don't really understand that, you have to go out here and grind, and they're following in footsteps she's not happy with. I think the way she handled maybe getting stolen from by them wasn't great, because they're teenagers and there's a way to think about that in terms of dealing with them. I mean, I don't know if she called and asked and they lied to her. She said they're gone now, so she's kind of closing herself off from, I guess, maybe assisting and helping them, and that was heartbreaking to me. I hate that she internalized it the way that she did it. That's the lesson that she got from that. I also hate that couldn't have been a bigger moment for us. So maybe we will be, we don't know. Anyway, she and Nee kind of discussed that, and then they kind of have a conversation around her and Danielle. And she basically says, a lot of the energy from Danielle is what she's not constantly feeling, the energy her and Morgan bring to different situations. And that, she found out that Nikki and Danielle were on live, basically making fun about the fact that Danielle punched her. And so this solidified to her that Danielle really never was apologetic about the situation. If you making fun about the fact that put your hands on me, which was supposed to be, because the way Danielle is making it sound, especially when she told that story last episode, was that she meant to hit her versus like I hit her accidentally. And she's kind of making fun of it with Nikki online as if she meant to connect with her as well, which then defeats the purpose of you saying that you hit her by accident. And so Milan says, look, we could coexist, we could be cool, but I don't trust her and she's messy as hell. And I really just hate the energy and attitude they bring. And her and Nick kind of make fun of the fact that when they get together, specifically, I guess, Morgan and Danielle, there's a negativity that they bring. And they always repeat the same lame lines that they keep saying to everybody, calling people ugly, calling people, all different types of stuff. And it gets boring. But they kind of make fun of it and say, look, they'll coexist. They can go to Nikki's thing and have no drama. Finally, we get to see Danielle do something that is not talking about Rashad and Mackenzie, at least not on the same level as always, honey. She is back and playing basketball, and she is getting it in the gym. We are finally seeing Danielle in her element, and it feels good to see her in that. She said that basketball is obviously been a love for her and something that she did for a long time to, build attempt to build a career for herself. She ultimately went to college and basketball scholarship, and she had planned on going to WNBA, but then she ended up with Rashad and following him. But she said that she's trying to get back into it, and she's talked about us multiple times. And now she's in the gym with a coach. The coach is very encouraging and telling her how to work on her game and how to work on her shots, how to stay focused in the moment. And she said that it really is not something that is ultimately only about, trying to get a career back, but ultimately about her working on her mental health. And basketball helps take her away from all the BS about being a mommy, about being stressed out about, finding her way, and even about the whole Rashad and Mackenzie thing, although she did find a way to bring them up in this moment. So I don't really know, girl, we got to work on this. Either way, it is a saving grace for her and something that has really helped her to stay focused and centered. I love seeing Danielle in her element, specifically with playing basketball. I just wish she would work more on the healing part of this, because so much of her energy is just spent on this man, even not being with him. And it's so sad to see women internalize that to where they make that their identity. Child, let's move on because we got to go back to Rashad. So Mackenzie and Rashad get together and they're having dinner. They're still in Minnesota, honey, living, loving, whatever. And they're sitting down having a conversation. And Mackenzie says that, they're basically at the beginning parts of their relationship. Like, it's very fresh, it's very new. But they start having a conversation about how, their dynamic is working. And specifically, Rashad asked her, like, how she's feeling being away from everything. And she says she really enjoys coming back home because they're from the same town. So she's just saying that, she enjoys coming back home to see her family, but also to see him. And it's such a break from her everyday life and all the stress that's going on, all the drama that goes on back home. And she starts talking about how she enjoys what they're growing. And Rashad says he does as well. However, they go start getting deeper into the conversation. And she says that she likes where they are and what's going on with them. She likes how the pace that they're taking it. And, she's not stressing about it because they seem to be comfortable. Now, here's where it turns from sugar to shit. So Rashad, then she brings up how he's feeling. He's like, he likes the dynamic. He enjoys her. And as long as he's allowed to continue to do, what he wants to do, he doesn't want to feel restricted in a relationship. That's how he felt in his last relationship. She feels like they have different communication than she had with Dwayne. But remember earlier, Danielle was saying that Rashad wanted to have an open relationship and she wasn't into it. And Rashad is saying as long as he gets to have the freedom that he can have that he didn't get to have before, as far as like feeling like he was tied down. And she's like, well, I don't treat you like a warden. Do you feel like that? And he's like, no, but time will tell. And she's like, okay, but right now we're just growing and I like the dynamic we're headed into. But it's clear that Rashad is indicating that he is fine with their relationship as long as he can step out whenever he feels like it. And I mean, they are very early. He said he doesn't want to put a title on it. So we basically found out that Rashad and her are not I don't know that they're an official couple. And he's just saying that even if they are, he would probably be honest with her and tell her, like, hey, I did something on the road or whatever, just so you know. I feel like he definitely is essentially saying, like, I plan on having an open relationship, or at least plan on being able to step out and not be questioned about it. Mackenzie doesn't seem to have this problem. And I said this earlier. First of all, she was corny as hell for mentioning that she's not worried about Rashad stepping out because he's happy, and that's not something he was in his last relationship. Girl, you were an idiot and you know better. So you know that a man could completely be in his relationship, be good, and still want to get something on the side just because he has the option to, especially if he plays in the NBA. She was corny for that moment. That it seemed like to be a dig at Danielle, and it was unnecessary, and it was birdish behavior. And you should know that good pee don't keep nobody. Number two, I keep saying this, and I said it since the beginning episode. Mackenzie is the type that is playing the long game, honey. She realizes Rashad gonna be out in these streets. She just like, look, as long as you take care of me and what you got to do for me, I don't really care about that. It's clear that she went from Dwayne to Rashad because she don't plan on, like I said, she said this P is just for B players or possibly football players, but she's not going back to broke. And that's what it clearly seems to be the case. Like, she's open to what he's open to and the idea of that, because as long as she's being taken care of, that's what it is. She's trying to play the long game. She's not trying to say be in love with this man. I can tell that right now. She's just making sure that she keep him happy so that he keeps her happy. And that's the dynamic that the relationship gives me. Because Rashad even mentions that the way she loves, the way that she cares for him, suggests that he's not going back to anything different from her. And that's because she probably caters to him because he keeps paying for her. Okay, so we on to some somber and some tender moments, y'all. So we get into Neek meeting up with Milan, and they're just hanging out, and we see them walking through the park having conversation, but we could tell that Neek is definitely bothered. And we realize when she stops to talk with Milan that Neek has just been through something super traumatic. So apparently Dwayne's brother was a rapper, an aspiring rapper, and he was having an album release party, and Neek and Dwayne and some of their family members and stuff were at the party. Everything seemed to be going good. He seemed to be having a good time, introducing his music and talking with people, and they were in a club, I believe, and somehow a melee broke out and Dwayne's brother was shot and killed. They said there was some people that walked in that were having issues with the cover charge and having drama, and it got really, really tense. It got so tense that, Dwayne kind of got a little bit involved, and even Neek herself almost felt like she was going to get involved because of the fact that the one of the young ladies that was, I guess, a part of the folks that were involved in the skirmish ended up threatening Dwayne, saying that she would, like, pump lead in his chest. And Nika was getting hype and upset. And luckily her mother was there and kind of eased her back off of the anger, because she felt like she was going to jump on the girl if the girl got closer to Dwayne, because that's her man. And she felt like Dwayne would then activate himself, and it could have been really, really tragic, had more death ensued. So his brother was unfortunately shot and killed. And, Dwayne and, Neek were okay, but obviously, this was just a traumatic situation. This young man lost his life, and it was all over nonsense. So she started explaining that to, Milan, and it obviously really stressed out from that happened to her. And she also was just, thinking about how close it was to her life ending. And it's just really bad situation that she's been going through. But she feels really happy that she can talk to Milan, and they have the kind of relationship where Milan can be there for her. Milan also mentions that she completely understands where Nika's coming from, because she lost her own brother, and her heart is empathetic to the fact that Dwayne lost his sibling. She said that when she found out about her brother, she was actually headed on she was on a plane, a flight going somewhere, and the flight hadn't even taken off before she got the call that her brother passed. Because she kept saying that when she got the initial call, she was stressed out, and she just kept saying, "He's going to make it. He's going to make it. He's going to make it." And then, unfortunately, her brother did not make it. So it was just a lot of trauma and traumatic moments that they had a discussion about, but there was a silver lining for both of them being there for each other. And ultimately, the fact that they could both sort of be able to comfort each other was really the plus. We then move on to a really nice moment between Morgan and her daughter. Of course, Morgan is still stressed out with the issues that she's going through with her ex, but she says that she, after talking with her mother, wants to be there even more for her children. She's sitting down with her daughter Ariana, doing her hair. This was such a beautiful moment. And it's one of the things I hate about the way that Morgan is dragging out this divorce and Ashley situation being the only thing. Because honestly, there is so much that I wanted to know about her past, just her ex and Ashley, specifically because Morgan has a business that she wants to start. She was looking for salon suites when she first got on the show. She was looking for a beauty salon because she wanted to also like attach it to like a beauty school. And I hate that we sort of dropped that storyline. Now, I blame production a bit because I'm sure she shot scenes focusing on that, and they decided to zone in on the drama. So I'm half not feeling Shawnee and VH1, and then half of it is Morgan, because she's allowing so much of her storyline to be about Ashley and their drama and her issues with her ex. And she walks around with this cloud of just depressiveness around her. And I hate that, because I feel like you don't have to be the smiling clown all the time. You can show that you have, emotions going on and you have drama going on. She's going through a very tough situation right now with her ex, but I hate that she's not showing us more of this person, because I think she seems like a beautiful soul when she's not so covered in the darkness of her situation. But she's talking to her daughter about, encouraging her to strive for the best. The daughter does say the saddest thing, that she's getting used to her father not physically being around and being in her life. And that is highly uncomfortable. Like, you have to be an ancient dad to see something like that and not want to step up in that way. Whether or not you break up with the mother of your children, you should obviously still be there for your kids in a way that makes them feel like, although their parents are not together, they are loved deeply. And the fact that your kid feels a void is sad. And that shouldn't be the case. I don't care if you remarried, you got a new baby, whatever. That should never be the dynamic that is going on with you and your kids. So my heart does go out to Morgan, and as it always did with that situation, and to what her daughter is going through. But they're talking about the daughter's activities this semester, and Morgan's continuing to do her hair. Her hair is beautiful. The daughter's beautiful. Very nice and sweet moment. And I appreciate us being able to see this opposite side of her. Y'all, so Nikki is getting ready to host the ladies. She's cleaning up her place, or actually she rented a place. Because I guess everybody can't fit into them apartments they all live in. So she rented a place, very, very cute, to have the girls come over. She said that she knows how the dynamic in this group works, and she really just wants it to be a positive experience all the way around. But she has some rules, like no men, no phones, don't come here talking about your problems, don't come here, in the issues category and bringing up everything that's been happening. That's whatever. They can talk some of their things through, but she wants to have a good time with them. She says despite whatever's been going on with her, and specifically with Milan. They, she likes Nick and Milan. She gets along with their energy and she wants it to be a positive experience. So she's getting the whole thing set up. She's got games, she's got food, she's got a good time, and hopes that the fun will allow them to sort of reconnect as girls and kind of get back into, or at least get to being cool, because we've never really had that. Meanwhile, Ashley is riding with her man in the car and they're having a conversation about the whole night. And he's saying, like, do you think this thing is going to be cool? Do you think it's going to be drama? What's going on? It very much gives Kim and Corey energy from Real Housewives of Atlanta. But either way, Ashley's telling him that she thinks it's not going to be exactly what it was. She kind of is already mapping out who's going to start drama and when it's going to happen and how it's going to be too much. But she said she thinks they're going to try, but she knows that it may not go that way. Tony, like, look, well, you know what you got to do. So she's like, yeah. She said, well, can you do this? Can you just be on standby? So when the drama do go through, I'm going to go ahead and just call you and you can come get me. Because I know we ain't going to be in no peaceful situation. Like, I already know who's going to keep their beef, who's going to stay the way they're going to stay, and who's not going to really change. So back at the house, Nikki's getting the balloons ready. She got the No Boys Allowed up there, and she's saying that it's going to be a twerkathon. Like, they just have a good time, have some cocktails, and relax. Nick is the first one there, surprisingly. Her and Nikki have clearly squashed their beef. They're good. They're having fun. It's a very regular time, and they actually seem to be enjoying each other's company. I really feel like when Nikki had not been so messy with including the whole drama about the bully thing, to me, she seems the most fun when she's around them. Not necessarily when she's around Danielle and Morgan. When she's around them, it turns into mean girl energy. When she's around the other girls, she really is having a good time. And that's evidenced by Neek coming up there first, not having any drama, them, squashing whatever issue they have going on. Lindsay showing up, honey, regular and pregnant, them having a good time. Danielle, Nikki mentions that she's going to give out trophies to whoever's the most well-behaved person of the night. The girls are having cocktails, they're having a good time, they're very relaxed. And so far, so good. However, as production is dropping everybody off, honey, when I tell you this has been the most produced season, because why is the same SUV dropping the girls off every single time? But next in the house is Milan. Now, Milan is not dressed in pajamas completely. She kind of dressed in like a little bit of a track outfit. Milan said, look, I don't trust nothing. The last time y'all came to my event that was supposed to be peaceful and chill, people acted the ass out. So she said she's not about to get caught up in the drama. She showed up with clothes that could possibly be fight attire just in case she got to start, mix it with somebody because she's not really sure. She said the last time she basically got stuck, she's not getting caught out here again. So if she got to be in fight mode, let her be in fight mode. So Milan's like, look, I came with sneakers just in case something go down. But the girls seem to be having a good time. Then they kind of fast forward to Danielle and Morgan getting out of the SUV and, saying that they're going to try to be positive. But Morgan was saying she want to get down to what's happening with the situation and really understand like what occurred with that, because she basically says that as she is advancing forward to come into the house, that her mom called her. Carita got her on the phone, honey. And Carita basically told her that she was being served with papers from Eric, I guess, regarding the child custody situation. And she feels like that serve happened because Eric doesn't know where she stays when she's in Orlando. I'm not really sure why that is, but there needs to be more explanation. Either way, she doesn't know how he got her address, and she feels like Ashley's the one that gave it to him because she talks to him all the time. I don't really know how that dynamic mixes up, but okay. I also just want to know, why does he not know what you say if that's what his kids are? If there's this whole dynamic about him wanting him to be in the life of his children, why doesn't he know what address they're at in Orlando while you're here? We need to know more about their situation. Anyway, they show up to the house. Everybody does listen to Nikki, puts their phones in the kitchen so they don't have their phones. They can't spend all night talking about no man child. At least they try to keep that going. And they try to have fun in games. They have these question cards, that always leads to drama, but it also leads to them initially having a good time. They ask individual questions of the ladies. They start having, conversation about everything. Danielle makes some type of semi-mature response to the fact that she feels like it's a good thing that her and Mackenzie could coexist in the same room. Mackenzie appreciates the comment, whether or not it's completely likable. They ask Neek, like, how's she doing in the card game and what she's going through. And she mentions that she's thinking about Dwayne because of what just recently happened. Mackenzie comes to hug her, and then Nikki comes to hug her as well. And, Danielle says, Morgan lets her know that, they're all there for her and she appreciates the love and the support of what she's going through because they just lost his brother. It was a very near-death experience for her and a trauma experience for both her and Dwayne, and a tragic experience for his brother. And they said, that they're there for her. And Morgan expresses, like, we're all understand what you're going through, and both you and Mackenzie. I appreciated that she included Mackenzie in that, because Mackenzie obviously was with Dwayne before Neek, and she did know his brother. She's obviously familiar with his family, and she shares kids with Rashad. But Mackenzie being there for her in that moment was very sweet. And she even says, thank you for that. Um, and she says, in her green screen that, she's really happy that Dwayne has Neek. And this was so mature to me, because he really needs that support in this moment of what's happening. And she also states that, it's been really hard on her son because he was very close to Dwayne's brother. And so, she, praying for his family in that time, but she's happy that Neek is able to be there for Dwayne in this moment, because it's just something that, I don't think anybody wants to ever go through, having lost a sibling. So they then get into asking Ashley a question, and what's something that's been bothering Ashley she's been wanting to get off her chest. So I'm thinking Ashley gonna talk about the kids, honey. Ashley says to Morgan, because she's the one that asked the question with the card, do you want to, talk about it now? And so she says she basically wants to get off her chest. So Morgan said, let's do it. And she says she wants to know why Morgan basically said that she was procuring women for Eric when he was on the road. Now, when we first started this show, Morgan made it seem like she knew with complete evidence that Ashley was hooking her man up with women on the road. And Ashley says, well, how do you know that? Or where are you getting that dynamic from? Because I don't appreciate that. And Morgan says that she Ashley said that she wasn't doing that. Morgan says, well, I didn't accuse you of that. I asked you. And Ashley's like, no, you basically accused me. That's what she told us. That's how we met Ashley. We knew Ashley was getting men for the men. So, I mean, we're getting women for the men, child. I don't know. Maybe she was getting men for the men too, honey. But that's what the dynamic is that she has a problem with. She then says that she wants to know how Eric got her information, because he served her with paperwork today, and nobody knows her address that's living there except for production and I don't know, whoever else is in her family, including her mom. And she knows that that Ashley's the one that talks to Eric still. Ashley says she did not give her address out. She says, but you did, post on social media that you were like at my spot or whatever. And so he probably figured it out. And I would assume if he has a good attorney, the attorney found her. I doubt she hid herself that well. But either way, she thinks that Ashley's the one that did it, and they get into a fight. So the drama continues, and Morgan is still in the mix. Production has gotten involved because she's going to jump up on Ashley because she feel like Ashley is the one that told her husband about the address, honey. And I came for after Ashley just called them cops during the set. So I think maybe she is giving Eric a conversation. However, I feel like you need to explain exactly what it is that that she's the one that says something. It's getting annoying to have her accuse Ashley of stuff that I'm not saying Ashley's necessarily not guilty of, but we need proof. It can't just be you have a feeling all the time. Because like Ashley said, if you post on social media, if you're going on your live, a lot of that stuff tags where you are. It's not hard. Like Eric is not poor, so he can't afford to have an attorney track her down. He might know everything that she's doing. He might have a private eye. She don't know. And it doesn't have to be Ashley. But if you are where you are, if you're tagging your locations, if you're in the mix with girls, if you're going online posting things, it's a possibility for somebody to find you. I'm almost certain that he knew she was shooting the show. That's what's throwing me off to this dynamic, because normally when you shoot a show like this, you have to get clearances all around. And you have to have conversation with people. You have to because remember I told you, if we look at the beginning of this episode, we noticed that they started blurting out Eric's name in the episode. And I found that interesting because at the beginning they were saying it. So I'm feeling like people catch wind of stuff. These men talk as much as these women talk. So I also am very surprised that she doesn't think that maybe a guy from the show might have said something and it may not be Ashley, simply because Eric knows a lot of those men in the NBA, and they pillow talk just like anybody else. I'm sure one of the men probably told him, unless they do confirm that actually is Ashley, where she was living, because they all know where she's living. They all living in the same damn complex, except for Morgan. But one of the men probably know exactly where her address is because he done found it out from one of these women and went and told his homeboy. Anyway, they get in the back and forth. Security trying to keep them apart. Ashley's like, look, if you're going to hit me, you're going to hit me. If you're going to punch me, you're going to punch me. Girl, you said you're going to do it like 8,000 times. Go on and get it. And Morgan's like, I'm going to kill you if you got my kids involved. So it just got into that whole drama and dynamic. And then there is a moment where Danielle basically says, like, why are you inserting yourself in somebody's divorce which I agree with if this is happening, because again, we're not giving the proof that Ashley has been talking to Eric and giving him all of this information. But she seems to be going off of everything that Danielle is telling her. I mean, Morgan is telling her and saying, like, you're a wife with that beautiful ring you have on your finger. You would think that you would be uplifting women. Now, I don't know that Ashley is bringing any of the women down. It's a drama between her and Morgan. I haven't seen her disrespect any of the other women on the show. But I do think that it's not only upon Ashley to be the one that is responsible. Morgan has to stop jumping into a rage every 5 minutes. She interacts like a high schooler that doesn't have any control issues, and that's annoying to see. Both her and Danielle have this problem. So you can't on one end say Ashley should be uplifting women, and on the other end, your friend could just hype. She could jump into a fight rage every single time. Like, she's not handling herself very well. It's embarrassing as fuck to be on TV and constantly be doing this type of situation. Anyway, the people are telling her go outside. She don't want to go outside. Ashley's like, okay, this is the same old, same old. Now, Mackenzie says she does understand where Morgan is coming from and some of the resentfulness and the anger she could have with Ashley, but constantly threatening her life and going back and forth, that is getting tired and is wildly disrespectful. Danielle tries to be the calmer voice in the situation, and Megan decides that she wants to give Danielle the award for girl power. Milan ain't having that. She said that's BS. Like, if you feel like that, then how come you're actually doing the same exact actions that she's doing on a regular basis? Plus, you're fake when it comes, because you're really not about girl power. Like, stop trying to make it seem like you're very positive. Milan does sort of make this moment about herself and essentially says that she's not with the fact that she would be getting the award because Danielle doesn't even believe in that. And she brings up the fact that on the live, she got an alert in her phone that Nikki had gone live and sees Danielle on the live talking mess about punching her, even though it was supposed to be an accidental punch with Nikki. Nikki doesn't like that they have the phone, but Milana's like, hey, we could pull it up and you can see on my phone. So Danielle's like, this is childish. Like, I don't need to bring this up right now. Basically, kind of not wanting to be honest about the fact that, yes, you're talking about girl power, but then you obviously made fun of hitting this girl by accident, making it seem like you hit her on purpose, and you're not really about that life either. Like, you're just trying to sound like you're rational, but you're not. So Milan is like, well, you had all this to say online. Like, let's get it in. I told y'all she came ready to fight. She's like, you sneaked me. So that's not the same thing as getting into a fight. So if you ready to go, let's go. So Milan is ready to get up and go. Her and Danielle are starting to get at it. There, Nick is holding her back on the couch. Production is there. Milan's like, we could get it in. And Danielle is like, oh, she's sitting there. They're having an argument. Now, why Morgan is involved, I do not understand, because if Danielle was going to get into a fight with Milan, it was going to be one-on-one. So for Morgan to then throw a shoe at her goes to show that could have almost hit Neek and it could have been round two, goes to show that that's the gross sister energy that they bring to the situation. Milan hyping it up to a fight was unnecessary. She then goes on to say that but Morgan getting involved and throwing a shoe across the room that could have hit anybody and escalated and you getting your ass whooped goes to further show that they just don't have a sense of maturity. They're getting escorted outside. As they're getting escorted outside, Danielle basically yells that Milan did OnlyFans and you did OnlyFans here and here. Now, I'm saying this, you can't really share anybody about doing OnlyFans if, per Mackenzie, you was begging your baby daddy for rent money not that long ago. She's like, I'm taking care of it. She's like, you got baby mama money. You don't got money that's your own. You got to beg for your income. So they're arguing. Morgan and Milan get escorted back to that SUV that probably been circling the block, honey. And the security has got them apart. Nikki knows her situation is ruined. Also, I think it's possible that Nikki might have did OnlyFans, so she might have got offended. And that is the end of the episode. It started off decent, ended in ratchetness per what we've had this whole season. Let me know what y'all think. It's been a long one, but I'm glad y'all sat with me through both episodes. Don't forget to check out episodes 7 and 8 later on tonight. Love y'all. Bye.